You call it being sensitive, but that's not what's draining you. What's draining you is needing everyone to be okay with you. Read that again. Not everyone loving you, not everyone choosing you, everyone being okay with you. No tension, no rejection, no disappointment, no awkward silence. You want emotional smoothness everywhere, and that sounds harmless, until you realize what it's costing you. Because while you're busy managing everyone else's perception of you, who's managing you? That's the strange part. You can be surrounded by people and still feel deeply unsafe. Not physically, emotionally. You know that feeling. You send a text. They don't reply. 10 minutes pass, then 30, then an hour. And suddenly your brain becomes a crime investigation unit. Did I say something wrong? Were they annoyed? Did I come off weird? Should I send another message? No, too desperate. So you stare at your phone, unlock, lock, unlock again. Pretend you're doing something else, but you're not. Because your emotional state is now sitting in someone else's pocket. That's the validation trap. And most people never see it. Because validation doesn't feel dangerous. It feels good. A compliment feels good. A like feels good. A fast reply feels good. Being wanted feels good. Nothing wrong with that. The problem begins when feeling good becomes feeling okay. Big difference. At first, this feels harmless. You post something online and keep checking views. You tell yourself you're curious, sure. You casually mention an achievement and wait for reactions. You say it doesn't matter. But it does. Someone praises you, mood up. Someone ignores you, mood down. Someone criticizes you, day ruined. And this is where things fall apart. Because now your nervous system stops asking, what do I think of me? It starts asking, what do they think of me? That question becomes automatic. In conversations, at work, in relationships, even alone, especially alone. You replay interactions in your head at 2 a.m. That joke I made. Was it stupid? Why did they sound cold? Did I talk too much? Too little? Why am I like this? And maybe the most exhausting part is how invisible this whole process is. From the outside, you look normal, functioning, smart, maybe even confident. But internally, you're shape-shifting, adjusting tone, editing opinions, softening truths, becoming whoever feels safest in the moment, and you don't notice it immediately. Because it rarely feels like betrayal. It feels like adaptation. You call it being easygoing, flexible, socially aware, mature. Sometimes it is. But sometimes, it's fear wearing good manners. Wait until you realize why. Most people think validation addiction comes from low confidence. Not exactly. It often comes from conditional acceptance, meaning, at some point your brain learns something dangerous. Love feels safer when earned, not received, earned, by performing, by achieving, by being low maintenance, by becoming impressive, by becoming useful, by becoming needed. Maybe nobody said those words out loud. They didn't need to. Children are pattern detectors. You noticed what got warmth. You noticed what got withdrawal. You noticed what created peace. And you adapted. Of course you did. That adaptation may have helped you survive emotionally. But survival strategies don't always age well. Because what protected you then may be controlling you now. And this changes everything. Because suddenly your people-pleasing isn't about kindness. Your perfectionism isn't about standards. Your overthinking isn't about intelligence. Your need to be liked is about safety. That hits differently, doesn't it? Because now the question changes. It's no longer, why do I care so much what people think? Now it becomes, why does disapproval feel dangerous? That's the real question. And this is the part most people miss. You're not chasing approval because approval feels amazing. You're chasing approval because disapproval feels unbearable. There's a difference, massive difference. One is desire, the other is fear. And fear is powerful. Fear makes you apologize when you did nothing wrong. Fear makes you stay in conversations you've mentally left. Fear makes you abandon yourself. Quietly, not dramatically. Quietly, you lose yourself in tiny negotiations. One swallowed opinion, one fake laugh, one forced yes, one ignored boundary, one more attempt to stay likable. And slowly, you stop knowing what you actually want. A lot of what you call love isn't love, it's relief. That silence after someone reassures you, that rush when they text back, that calm when you know they're not upset. You think that feeling means connection. Sometimes it does, but often it means your nervous system stopped panicking. That's not the same thing. And that distinction matters more than most people realize, because if you confuse relief with love, you'll keep choosing people who activate your anxiety and reward you with temporary peace, hot and cold, pull and push, attention and withdrawal, and your brain starts calling that chemistry. No, that's unpredictability, and unpredictability can feel addictive, because intermittent validation is powerful. Slot machines know this, social media knows this, and unfortunately some people know this too. They don't always manipulate intentionally, sometimes they're trapped too, but the effect is the same. You become emotionally hooked on being chosen, not because they're right for you, because they keep triggering the wound. And this is where things get brutally honest. You may say you want love, but sometimes what you're actually chasing is proof. Proof that you matter. Proof that you're enough. Proof that you're worth staying for. But here's what nobody realizes. No amount of external proof can permanently fix internal doubt. Read that carefully. If your worth depends on constant confirmation, peace becomes impossible, because reassurance expires. Always. Someone says you're amazing, feels good. For a while. Then the mind asks again. Yeah, but do they still think that? And again. And again. That's the trap. Validation doesn't satisfy insecurity, it feeds it. Because every time you outsource worth, you teach your brain, I can't regulate without external permission. That's when the real problem begins. You stop living from truth. You live from reaction. You become highly sensitive to tone shifts, micro-expressions, response speed, energy changes. You read everything, and usually, you assume the worst. Not because you're broken, because hypervigilance became survival. But survival mode is exhausting. You know that exhaustion, the kind where your body is still, but your mind feels like it ran a marathon. Lying in bed, ceiling above you, phone in your hand. Scrolling, not even enjoying it, just numbing. Avoiding silence, because silence gets loud, and in that silence, there's a question. A terrifying one. Who am I? If nobody approves of me. Sit with that, because this changes everything. If approval disappears, do you disappear too? For a lot of people, the honest answer is a little, and that's painful. But also clarifying, because now we've found the real wound. It was never about likes, texts, compliments, attention. It was about identity. You built parts of yourself around being accepted. The reliable one, the smart one, the funny one, the easy one, the needed one. But what happens when authenticity threatens those roles? That's the internal war. Because real freedom has a cost. Some people will misunderstand you. Some won't like your boundaries. Some will prefer the version of you that had no limits. That version was easier to control. And yes, that hurts. But losing people by being real is very different from keeping people by abandoning yourself. One hurts your heart. The other slowly erodes your identity. Choose your pain carefully, because there's no path without discomfort, only different kinds. And maybe maturity looks less like becoming universally loved, and more like becoming okay with being selectively misunderstood. That sounds small. It's not. It's enormous, because once you stop treating disapproval like danger, your whole life changes. You speak cleaner, you choose slower, you stop over-explaining, you stop chasing, you stop performing connection, and something strange happens. You become calmer, not because everyone approves, because you no longer require it to feel whole. That's freedom. Real freedom. Not confidence as performance, not arrogance, Not emotional numbness, something quieter, stronger. A grounded internal voice saying, they're allowed to misunderstand me. They're allowed to leave. They're allowed to dislike me. And I'm still here. That's power, because validation says, I am okay if you approve. Self-respect says, I remain okay even if you don't. Massive difference. One gives your identity away. The other keeps it rooted. So the next time you feel yourself shrinking, over-explaining, checking your phone again, trying to manage someone's perception of you, pause and ask, am I seeking connection or permission? Because those are not the same. One nourishes, the other controls. And maybe the deepest truth is this. You were never actually starving for approval. You were starving for safety, for acceptance, for rest, for a place where you didn't need to perform worth. Start becoming that place. For yourself. Not perfectly. Not overnight. But deliberately. Because the validation trap loses power the moment you see it clearly. And now, you've seen it. You can't unsee it. So if this felt a little too real, maybe that's the part you shouldn't ignore.